Our speaker this morning is the Reverend Alexis Rolnick. Reverend Alexis Sharon Rolnick is an ordained minister, certified medium, natural spiritualist teacher with the NSAC. She founded the Church of Joyful Living in Charlestown, West Virginia. Alexis is an expert in public speaking, concentrating on platform presentation and persuasion. She has served over 30 years as an adjunct professor at the major universities in the greater Washington, D.C. area. Alexis was a child performer and a current member of the Screen Actors Guild and Actors Equity. Reverend Rolnick is an author of Martha's Syndrome, which offers a fresh look in Bible stories. She currently resides in Lilydale year-round. Before we have her speak this morning, if you would please rise, we're going to sing number 155, In the Garden. Thank you. You may be seated. Alexis.
Oh, never mind. Oops. Hold on, I'm finding my place. Before I begin, I want to thank Bernie for his talk last Sunday. It has inspired me to talk about something where in my life I was able to overcome something really serious. So, most of you know me. I've been living in Lilydale for a while. As Javi said, I grew up in the theater as a child. I often talked about that. But there's something I never talked about, ever, as far as I remember. So today I hope that in seeing that I've overcome something serious in my life, so serious that I never talk about it, that maybe it will encourage someone here today to have some courage to overcome for themselves. Tucumcari, New Mexico. Stephen and I were married about a year, I think, and we decided to pick up roots. Stephen had a message from Spirit, go west, young man, go west. So off we went. From New York City, we were driving to Arizona. I spent much of my life as a teacher, and yes, there will be a test at the end, so listen carefully. It's August of 1975, and we were driving through New Mexico. It was hot, hot, hot. Not New York City hot, which was humid, but a whole kind of bone dry that I had never known. In fact, I'd never been this far from home before, and felt, other than Stephen was with me, I felt utterly alone. So we embarked on this cross-country venture. Stephen was a remarkable person. He got his when he decided to move to Arizona, he got his driver's license in New York City on the first try after only driving for 1 week. And I got to tell you, I don't know what it is now, but back in 1975, it was very difficult to get a driver's license. I failed twice, and I'm an excellent driver. But he was driving. Oh, yeah, I said it. I was in the passenger seat. Stephen was driving. It was, that was I called my VW Beetle Dulcinea. It was a 1970s Savannah beige, and it cost me exactly, think about what a car costs today, $2,448.25 for a whole car with air conditioning and the works. We got as far as Tucumcari, New Mexico. Neither Stephen or I, coming from the city, ever saw Route 66, a major interstate highway where you had to stop because a railroad train crossed the path. So, yep, the car stalled at that intersection when the thing went down. No, I never saw anything like that. Stephen, well, he still was an inexperienced driver. He got stopped. I knew how to, if I was driving, I knew how to deal with, coax Dulcinea into starting again. But I was asleep in the passenger seat. Now, those cars, think again about how much plastic's in a car today. Dulcinea was metal, and there was a bar between the front and rear windows. That was metal, really hard metal. My head was leaning against it. I guess I'd fallen asleep. And a Native American, that's the Navajo Nation, by the way, was driving a 62 Chevy pickup truck plowed into the rear. Well, you probably don't remember, but the VW Beetle's engine was in the rear. So the car was totaled. Now, also many people, I don't think even remember today, that part of Route 66 is not the United States of America. It's the Navajo Nation. So this guy, you're no longer in the United States of America. You're on Indian land, Navajos. Okay, so the driver had no license plate, no driver's license. He didn't need it. He wasn't in the United States, right? And that little Beetle with that big, you remember those old pickup trucks, was solid. The car was, and he had no insurance, no plates, no driver's license. And here were two young people with not much to our names back then, so we were stuck. You know how spirit works sometimes in wondrous ways. The car back of the pickup truck was a nurse. And she knew, so, I'm in the middle of nowhere. There was no hospital within at least 200 miles of Tucumcari, New Mexico, except that the only hospital in the region was right there in Tucumcari. So the nurse knew what to do with me. I was out cold. Most of this following, I don't remember. I was unconscious. I do remember very briefly being in the emergency room. I was up in the ceiling, out of body, looking down at my body, and I was confused. It's just like on TV or in a magazine when you read out-of-body experiences. I did turn and saw that the nurse over the other side of the room she had opened my wallet, and the doctor turned to ask her my name. Well, I was incensed. Nobody opens my wallet and looks at the thing. But so I got very incensed, and I said, "My name is Mrs. Stephen J. Rolnick," and I blacked out again. Later, Stephen told me how relieved he was that the only thing I remembered was that we'd recently been married. He was so afraid that I remember everything else, but I had a concussion, and I was unconscious in the hospital for 3 days, and the next thing I remember waking up in the hospital bed with Stephen at my side. He was quietly reading a book, and I do remember suddenly a nurse came in and her eyes went wide, and she went running out of the room, I guess to get a doctor. I said, "What's the matter?" Stephen, I said, What's the matter? Why is she doing that? Stephen said it's been 3 days, and he was holding on to my hand really tight. So now is the test. I have more to say, but we're stopping for the test. Okay? Here it is. What part of the story did I use the words, "I remember"? I didn't, because when I woke up, the only thing I remembered was that I'd recently married Stephen. The rest of my life was gone. Absolutely gone. Am I describing a Hollywood movie? Who am I? One of those old black and white movies. Where am I? Who am I? No. Ray Milland, you remember old movies? Ray Milland in The Lost Weekend. Couldn't remember anything. Gaslight, that was a good old movie where Charles Boyer tried to make his wife crazy, that she wasn't remembering things. No, I had no memory. I truly could not remember anything about my life before that moment. Yoo-hoo. Absolutely nothing, except, as I said, I had recently married Stephen. At that time, I was devastated. So I'm sure you've asked yourself at some point in your life, why did this happen to me, right? I mean, I have a theory. Yes, medically, I was unconscious medically. It is true. There's a medical truth to it. But I think there's a spirit answer to it. We were moving, but there was a lot going on in my life. 1975, I probably don't remember, New York City went bankrupt and started firing teachers. Well, you know the expression, last hired, first fired. Stephen wasn't all that happy in his job either. So yes, there was, but I was in emotional trouble. Once I became engaged to Stephen, my mother went bonkers. She just hated him for the rest of their lives together. She absolutely hated him. I think one of the reasons was she swore to me that I would never marry an actor. So in addition to I was a performer, Stephen was a performer as an adult. I brought home a nice Jewish boy, but my mother had problems, and it was so much emotional pain that I think Spirit just, I don't know, kind of wiped it out. I don't know how else to explain it. That I felt that I couldn't move forward in my life with all that emotional pain from my parents. My mother told every one of our relatives to never talk to me again, and they never did. They never did. She was so incensed about it. Wedding's supposed to be a happy time of life, but my mother cried through the whole thing. That telling everyone, Stephen's family, my family, what a terrible thing it was that I was getting married. What can I tell you? So, 75, we did make it to Arizona and everything was fine. Things were fine. I taught high school out there just like I did in New York. I really didn't remember. So we're going from 1975 to 2018, 2017, 2018. Those were the couple of years we moved so Stephen could work at the museum on the site of Woodstock. So I'm in the kitchen, Stephen's in the living room reading the local paper, and he calls out to me, he says, "Alexis, come out here. Didn't you know this man?" Well, Stephen knew about my spiritual journey because that's how we met. But because of my mother, he didn't know, there was no opportunity for him to get to know anything about the rest of my life. He says, "Don't you know this guy?" So he said, "Come look at the picture." I stood there in the living room. I can't tell you, but that I was frozen. I was absolutely frozen. I said, "Yes, that's Happy Traum." I had guitar lessons from his brother when I was doing folk music. And it's just like a flood of memories came back. And it really was difficult to deal with. I still do not remember sequentially. I don't remember everything, but it's like flashbulb. I can't explain what triggers those memories. I don't know. I can't explain it. Something to do with the workings of the brain. I don't know what part of the brain is right here, because that's where I hit my head. I do occasionally remember. I think it denied my two sons the experience of knowing their grandparents or sharing about, that side of the family. I don't know, but so I started to remember this or that, but I got to tell you that I got COVID in August. It was the most, I don't know who had COVID, but it was the most horrible experience. But I found myself flashing when I was very, very young, which I hadn't remembered since 1975. And it gave me a good insight into what was bothering my mother. So ask yourself, I had to ask myself, and I still do, what is truly valuable in life? I know that I could never again remember everything, or quite frankly know for sure if what I'm remembering actually happened, because I don't know if it's like mixed up in my brain. So I only remember what's important. For example, why do I what do I need to remember? I had to prioritize. I had to go back to work when we hit Phoenix. I had to go back, and I did find a job teaching. So I had to prioritize what's truly valuable. Do I really need to know instant recall of everyone's phone number? What's an address book for? Now it's on my phone. I don't even need an address book, okay? I really, at that point, I really only needed to remember enough to do my job and to cook dinner. I needed to remember my parents, my husband, my children. But what about the so-called relatives? Growing up, they were so close. And all the years since my accident, since 1975, none of them has ever called me or tried to reach me or asked me, do I really care? Nothing I can do. That's the other thing. If I can't do anything about it, I can't. What can I do? My mother poisoned their minds. No one ever called me, so what can I do? I thought we had a very close family, people who care, who call. It hit me also when I was in childbirth, thinking about wanting to have my mother with me, but by my side was Stephen. I got to tell you, Stephen, God, and the angels have been with me, although he's not here now. I know they care because they were there for me. Who's been there for me for 48 years? Stephen. So it's taken me a long time to realize that I had a unique opportunity to reconstitute my life. I did go through the stages of grief. I really did. And I called my mother every Saturday, and she, for all those decades, refused to talk to me. So first I was scared. It is like the stages of grief. I realize that now. I was mad for a long time. Finally, I just had to resign to not remembering. And it is only now that I can admit that a lesson was learned. In being released from the barriers of a very painful past, I could create a new future. And it points out to all of us that you can do the same thing. You don't have to live with whatever. You don't have to live with a difficult experience. Bless it and move on. Don't wait until something horrible happens, like with me. Tomorrow's a new day. Reconstitute your life, move on, and know that Spirit's with you. I was lucky to have Stephen, but because we both knew about Spirit, but basically Spirit is with you, and I don't know how else to say it. Just move on. Don't let a bad experience ruin the rest of your life. Just move on. I think looking back, it probably was a blessing that I lost my memory, because I don't think I could have lived with that emotional pain with my mother and all that nonsense. I don't think I could have moved forward in my life. So I think Spirit just wiped it out so that I could move on. And it's a blessed day today, and tomorrow, start your new life. And thank you very much for listening to this personal experience.
Thank you, Alexis.